Dorothy Ruth McCallum, Professor of Italian at Mount Holyoke. Thank you, Aaron, for talking with me today.
You bet. Yeah, my name is Aaron Miller. I'm the Associate Curator of Visual Material Culture at the Mount Holyoke College Art Museum, and I work very closely with the Skinner Museum collection.
So the Skinner Museum is very important for me because I've been teaching a first-year seminar on Italian food culture, and one thing that I like to cover is our New England food culture, and especially 19th century Mount Holyoke food. And given that we have this very special collection in the Skinner Museum, I find that taking my students there has always been very rewarding and a wonderful way to put them in connection, in conversation with early Mount Holyoke College life. So one thing that I'd like to ask you today, Aaron, is what makes the Skinner collection so special, and what are the connections between early life and Mount Holyoke, especially during Mary Lyon's life, and the Skinner Museum?
So the museum's special in many different ways. I mean, there's a collection of more than 7,000 objects, and they really represent almost every inhabited continent and really across time. Another really important part of it is that it's sort of a fossilized collection, that you get sort of an idea of what one collector was interested in. And more or less the museum is arranged the way that Joseph Allen Skinner intended to. So it's a history of museums, it's history of collecting, it's a lot of different things. So within the collection, there's a lot of material that focuses on 18th, 19th century food culture. But then within that, there are actually quite a few objects that directly relate to Mary Lyon and the early seminary. So that includes things like the door from Mary Lyon's childhood home in Buckland, Massachusetts. And then some of the soup tureens and other ceramic vessels that the first students and faculty at the seminary actually used in the 1830s and 40s.
This is wonderful. Was this speaking about the soup tureen and the crockery, the china? Was it very precious china? Was it more in the sort of pottery type of foodware?
Yeah, so it's interesting because the primary pattern that was used in the seminary is called Willowware, which was very popular in the early 19th century up to the 1850s. And I mean, even today, I think a lot of our parents or grandparents have sort of these blue designs. They're chinoiserie, so they're made to look like Chinese ceramics, but they were made in the West. So I think at the time when Mary Lyon presumably specifically asked for these types of vessels, they were the sort of thing that you would see in, I think, many middle-class households.
So basically the students came to campus and they were probably using similar pottery or sort of not very expensive china that they might have been using at home. So that's very interesting. And so the museum is divided into two, actually three levels. But there is the level, so the sort of downstairs floor that has a lot of objects that have to do with food production, food preservation in New England. What can you tell us about that? What's interesting about those objects?
Yeah, so it was an area of real interest for Joseph Skinner because he devoted a huge space to these objects of everyday life. So focusing on what would be stored or happen in the pantry, sort of food production and storage, things related to dairy, so milk production and butter and cheese, those sorts of things, as well as kind of cooking implements as well. So I think that the significance for the collection that we have today is that it represents everyday life in the 18th and 19th century, specifically in this area, but it would have been very similar, I think, throughout the Western world. So the objects that people would actually use every day to do the things that they were doing every day. And this also often represents the work of women and children that's not always so well represented in the documentary record.
Yeah, so basically going to the Skinner Museum, one could get a good idea of what it would have been to run a household in the 19th century in New England, but not only in New England, in the Western world, but certainly in this part of the Western world. Are there, I don't know, things to make to make butter or to work with maple syrup, perhaps, given that we are in this part of Massachusetts? I need to ask.
Yeah. So definitely, there are lots of things specific to the Northeast of North America. Molds for making maple sugar candies, other types of candy making things. We have the old-fashioned ribbon candy. We have one of these machines that kind of crank it out and it cuts as it goes. Things for pitting cherries and apples and various fruits that would have been grown in this area.
Fantastic. I'm going to look forward to see some of these objects in this documentary, and I feel that we can really pair them up with a great collection of documents that we keep in the Manoliok archives as well. I feel that they work together.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.